Comedy is one of those things that's kind of difficult for a game to pull off well, and it's a pretty sizable risk. There are a lot of games that take a whack at humor, but only a few of them actually landed. Of course, comedy is entirely subjective, so you and I probably have very different ideas on what games are hilarious and what games are just trying a little too hard. But if comedy is done right, at least for the audience that they're trying to target, and it complements the gameplay, it adds a whole world of personality and enjoyment to a game. It gives the game its own voice and makes it just a little bit more enjoyable. Black Shell Media's SanctuaryRPG is a game that, in my opinion, sticks the landing pretty damn well when it comes to comedy and gameplay merging. This ASCII RPG is in a class of its own, playing like a mix between Zork and Kingdom of Loathing. It puts you into the boots of whatever character you choose to create at the very beginning of each run, and it sets you on an adventure to save the world or die along the way. And you most certainly will die. That's kind of a part of the challenge. There are 3 difficulties when you start the game, and in the recommended one, death is permanent, so you need to be careful with how you approach combat and your interactions with characters. There's also a difficulty where death is just kind of a major setback, and then there's a lunatic mode that makes the monsters stronger and gives you better loot. So after you've built your character and read the pages of perks that your class starts with, you don't have to read all these, by the way, but it's actually pretty useful to know what some of them do. You'll then get some pretty hilarious expositional text about your character, and then you're dropped right into the thick of it with a random lady giving you your gear, and then a blob comes up and you get to learn how combat works. So combat is a turn-based system with some neat mechanics. There's a combo system where you tie attacks together to do more damage and build up the charge of your ultimate attacks. There are a bunch of different status effects, opportunity-based attacks, and even positioning matters, kind of, in a way. It's represented kind of abstractly, but it works really well. All of this kind of melds together for a pretty surprisingly dynamic combat system, and it's executed it's f***ing great. I love it. Throughout the entirety of the game, there are just a lot of little secrets, mechanics, and even upgradable places that you can use to get money or better equipment. The tavern lets you serve patrons for sick cash, and you can dig for materials at your campground to make new gear. There's also a minigame for handcrafting new weapons and armor that involves making sure you don't overheat or break the thing you're trying to make. Overall, mechanically, I'm really f***ing impressed. It really seems like the game's ASCII style let the devs put all their effort into crafting a text adventure with deep mechanics that works incredibly well and screams creativity. And as I've kind of hinted at, the writing and comedy are absolutely on point. There's plenty of wit and sarcasm. There's an almost nihilistic sense of humor that's spread around like butter on toast. This might be a bit obscure, but a lot of what the game does in terms of getting laughs feels like what a more grown-up focused version of Kingdom of Loathing would have been. It's goofy without going over the top, or going way over the top anytime it decides to. It's a difficult comedic balance to strike, but SanctuaryRPG pulls it off incredibly well, much like everything else it pulls off. The last cherry on this cake is that Sanctuary is actually challenging. You have to pay attention in combat to make sure you heal at the right time, or grapple the enemy, or even run away if it comes down to it. This isn't a game where you can just run in, tap a bunch of buttons, and expect to make progress. There are easier enemies, sure, but for the most part, you really need to pay attention and think about your next move. It's turn-based after all, so you have plenty of time. SanctuaryRPG is a game that hits plenty of the right buttons without becoming overbearing. Despite its challenge, it's welcoming thanks to its humor, and it's easy to pick up pretty much whenever if you can get past the initial info dump. You can get it on Steam for about $8. If you're looking for any kind of new RPG to play, or you just want to giggle a little bit, pick this one up. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Indie Bytes. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe for more stuff like this. Be sure to check out the other content that we put out on this channel, and remember to drop me a line here on Twitter or through email with any game recommendations that you've got. You can find all that stuff down in the description below. I'll see you next time. Bye!